Hello, and welcome back to my channel, where I like to read historical fiction, nonfiction, and true crime, and also research the stories to dive a little bit deeper about these stories. So if you like history, books, crime, whatever, definitely subscribe to my channel. Let's first talk about the book that got me going down this rabbit hole. The Mercies by Kiran Hargrave. Now, I had never heard of this book before. I just found it on Goodreads. It sounded interesting to me, and I am so glad that I picked this up. So let's talk about the book first before I go into all the research details. This book takes place in 1617 in a town called Vardo, Norway, or I guess you could say island, village. There's different ways you can describe it. Now, it may also be pronounced Vardo. I'm not sure, so if you know the correct pronunciation, definitely comment below. Anyway, so basically what started this whole story was that there was a huge storm that had completely wiped out the male population of this island, village. What was going on was that the men were out at sea catching fish, doing what they needed to help the island survive. Well, when the storm hit and all the males were lost on this island, it left all the women to fend for themselves. So I guess you could estimate the population of this town area would be probably about 80 people at the time. Cut that in half, you're left with about 40 women to do jobs of both men and women. And these were times where women already had a lot on their plate, and now they have a lot more to do to survive. Now, how other people perceived this, especially the king, this was the perfect opportunity to push his religion onto this part of Norway. There was a lot of talk about the Sami people, which is the indigenous people of Norway, and how they were not willing to really throw away their language and culture and beliefs. What happens? They hire a pastor to go out there. Now, majority of the women at this time were already Christians, so obviously this started to divide the women. The king was not done yet. He hired a commissioner who is known for his brutality and sent him there to basically start a witch hunt. So this book is told through two different perspectives. It's told from one of the women on the island and also the commissioner's wife. I actually found the two perspectives really went well with each other. I truly enjoyed this book. I really liked the characters. I think the author did a fantastic job on this book. The pace was really nice. It was actually quite fast paced. I really thought this book was going to be a slow burn, but this book definitely impressed me. And the thing about it is that the author of this book, she typically writes children's book. This was her first adult fiction book. And I found that absolutely incredible because she did such an amazing job. So this book definitely earns 5 stars from me. I've recommended this already to so many people because this is a book that you need to add to your TBR list like right now. All right, enough about the book. So let's talk about the history behind this story. So I'm gonna actually start with Vardo, Norway, or Vardo, Norway. It is on the most northern tip of Norway in the far east corner. Like I said, in the story, we're predicting about maybe 80 people lived there at the time in the 17th century. Now it has a population of about 1,900 people, so it has grown quite significantly since this time. Next, I want to talk about the Sami people and who they were and what they are. So the Sami people were the indigenous people of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and parts of Russia. They have been around for 10,000 years, and they were mainly known to be reindeer herders and hunters, things like that. They are actually still currently Norway's biggest indigenous group, and there's about 80,000 of them today. And you could say that their beliefs or their religion was shamanistic, is basically what it was described, where they believe animals, rocks, everything had a soul in it. That's basically what they believe. Now, unfortunately, in the 16th century, they were colonized. They were basically told, you need to give up your language, your culture, everything. So what they did is they took their children away from them and put them into Norwegian schools so they would be able to speak Norwegian and to forget their culture and everything. That was until the Sami Act of 1987. This was written to acknowledge the Sami people. This also helped them have a voice for themselves where they could govern themselves and figure out their own issues with themselves. This also helped the Sami people with their linguistic rights in court as well. Now we're going to talk about the king that actually enforced all of this, and that is going to be King Christian IV. Now, King Christian, he was the king of Norway and Denmark at the time. He was king from 1588 to 1648. His reign was almost 60 years, which is still the longest in Scandinavian history. He is known for creating palaces during his time that actually still stand today. However, he is also very well known for witch hunts. Now, the reason why he got involved in witch hunts was because King James VI of Scotland had come out with a treatise, if you will, of witchcraft, and had started this huge kind of movement against witches. Now, King Christian IV saw this as an opportunity to make a mark in the world. He said, "Sign me up," and he created the Witchcraft Act of 1617. Now, the purpose of this act, or basically what it stated, was that there's two different types of witches. The non-devil worshipping witches, where they just did magic but really didn't consult with the devil in any way, so they were just exiled. Then there was the other witches, who were the quote-unquote ones that consulted with the devil. Those were obviously the ones that were burned at the stake or executed. And this created the Great Witch Hunt, and this act remained until 1686. Now, the king wanted to hire somebody that was brutal, who would get the job done, and so he hired John Cunningham. He was a high-ranking Scotland noble who served in the Danish Navy for many years and was known for his brutality against pirates. So King Christian thought he was the perfect man for the job, and oh boy was he. So now let's talk about John Cunningham, or Lensman Cunningham. He was a nobleman from Scotland who served in the Danish Navy, got a name for himself for his brutality, and boy oh boy did he use it. He even went a little further than what the king had anticipated. Now, John Cunningham, there wasn't a whole lot of information on him, but he was responsible for 52 witch trials. And these witch trials led to the execution of 91 people. Now, the problem with that, well, there's a major problem with that, but the problem that the king had with it was that 14 of them were Sami men, but the rest were all Norwegian women. It wasn't exactly what the King Christian had in mind, but it happened. Now we're actually going to get to the witch trials of Vardo, Norway, or Vardo, Norway. Like I said, it started in 1617, so basically this huge storm came in and wiped out the male population. And the storm was quoted to be where the sea met the sky. And a lot of people only believe that that kind of a storm that could wipe out the male population obviously had to be witchcraft. Anyway, like I said, this left them in a very vulnerable place where a lot of women didn't have any men around. So this was seen as a perfect opportunity to go hunting for witches. Now, unfortunately, the main target of these witch hunts were the Sami people. The Sami people for many years were told to get rid of their religion, their beliefs, their culture, everything. And now they were literally executed for it. Now, the trial for the storm actually started in 1621 by one of the women in the village confessing to doing that with the storm. Now, once the witch trial of 1621 started, it was from this woman who claimed to have met the devil on a local mountain range and had conjured up this storm to get rid of the men. Then another woman came forward and was like, "Oh yeah, we did it. We were responsible. We tied a rope around 3 times, spat on it, untied it, and that's what caused the storm." Now, the leader of these women was Christy Sorensdottir. Now, she was accused because there was a rival between the women. That was the reason why they accused her of being of witchcraft, which unfortunately she did break and confessed to it, and she was burned at the stake because of it. So be careful, ladies. So that was the end of the first witch trials, was all about this storm and who was guilty for it. Then the second wave of witch trials started in 1651, and it saw the execution of 17 women that were believed to have caused storms or shipwrecks. So that was the second wave of the witch trials. I really couldn't find a whole lot more on it. Definitely comment below if you can give a little bit more details on that. Now we come to the third wave of witch trials in Vardo. Now this round of witch trials was the biggest in Scandinavian history ever. It saw the execution of 30 women. One was sentenced to housework or house arrest. 2 of them were tortured to death, and then 18 of them were burned at the stake. And this wave started all because this guy said, "My maids had bewitched me, and it started the third wave of these witch trials. Now, what actually ended this third wave was actually a judge that spoke up, and he was like, this is crazy that we are literally executing people with really not so much evidence at all against them. We need to do something about this. And this judge was Mandrop Shonobel. I believe is how you pronounce his name. I could have butchered it. But anyway, he was the one that finally stood up against all of this and declared to challenge public opinion and to have some acts put into place of how a trial should go and to help protect women and other people from going to trial that are completely innocent. So starting in 1687, every trial was supposed to be brought forth to Parliament, which really helped no more burning at the stake. In Norway alone, 750 people were accused of witchcraft and 300 of them were sentenced to death. Now, what I found interesting was that actually the Salem witch trials in Massachusetts was more well known than the Norway witch trials. And I don't really understand why. If you can figure that out, definitely comment that below. The Salem witch trials was from 1692 to 1693, and it had seen 20 people executed, one by the weight of rocks, and the other 19 of them were hanged. And that is considerably lower numbers than there was in Norway. So the last burning at the stake happened in 1695, and then after that, there was no more burning at the stake, but witch trials still did happen. Now, the last person to be executed for witchcraft was in 1727 in the British Isles. Now, the most executed for witchcraft in the world was the German lands at the time, which was Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. This was when the Roman Empire had ruled all this land, and they had guesstimated to about 25,000 people were executed for witchcraft in these lands, which is considerably more than Norway Salem witch trials put together. So now you know as much as I know about the Norway witch trials. I was absolutely shocked that I had never heard of these. I don't know why I thought Norway would not be a part of the witch trials. I was just absolutely shocked while reading this book about how much happened that I never knew about. And that is why I wanted to research it. So definitely let me know in the comments below if you have anything else to add to this or any other book recommendations that's based on these witch trials. I'm always looking for good books, and I'll be honest, I really haven't found a lot of good books about the Salem witch trials, so if you definitely have a recommendation for that, definitely comment that below.